This is a Hayward Tuck Stories recording of Some Talk of Monsters. Book 1, An English Heritage. Copyright Jack Hayward Tuck. Chapter 9, Awaking from Hibernation. It is in the year of 1993 where we must now return to the house of Mike Stewart and Catherine Brooks. "What's all the banging?" Catherine shouted, squatting over a bucket. It was hard for Catherine to keep her balance. She was holding up her jacket from the back, while preventing her camouflage trousers, which were around her ankles, and her bare feet from getting wet in the puddles. Then there was the added problem of her long auburn hair. It kept falling over her face, making it difficult to see where she was aiming. "That had better not be you, Max," she yelled, pulling up her combat trousers. The kitchen was getting dark again, and she would have to light the candles. But how? She was out of matches. She searched amongst the clutter on the table for another box, knocking over her birthday and Christmas cards. There were no matches anywhere. Catherine then gathered up her birthday cards, placing the card Mike, her boyfriend, had given her on the top of the pile. She sighed, opening the card. "Happy 26th. Mike had written the words in red ink, signing below with a kiss. But there had been nothing happy about it. How could there be? 2 weeks before Christmas, and Catherine's life is a mess. She hates her job at the college, for seeing the students every day only reminds her that she had failed to finish her degree course. She would be back in class, of course, and one day soon, if she could only sort her life out and get rid of Maximilian. "If it's you, Max," she called out, "perhaps I will let you in. It'll give me an opportunity to hit you and explore some new ways in which I could use my fists. I need to warm up my hands." The sound of muffled pop music began to pulse. It was coming from next door. There were also muffled screams of children, suggesting that her neighbour was hosting a children's party. She prayed that the kids wouldn't be let out, for they might climb the fence into her garden. They liked to run across her lawn, down to the pond to see the frogs. She picked up one of her army boots and threw it at the wall where the bass was booming. The thought of the children next door made her think of how she had got herself into this mess. On a Sunday afternoon, when Catherine was 14, the boy that had lived next door to her had climbed over the fence into her garden. Her little brother, David, was playing with his action men on the lawn, unaware of the boy walking towards him. This boy laughed and then kicked one of the figures. The doll flew up into the air, landing on the roof of the garage. David shouted at the boy and then pushed him over. The boy jumped to his feet and then shoved David. Catherine, witnessing the incident through the sitting room window, came storming out. She grabbed the boy, throwing him to the ground. She then started punching him, and she soon made the boy cry. But then, not understanding why at the time, she started kissing him. Catherine had never kissed a boy before, and she liked it. The boy soon stopped crying. That was when she told him he was now going to be her boyfriend. David couldn't understand this at all, but he soon became friends with the boy and they never fought again. The boy's name was Mike Stewart, her Mike. And where was he? Catherine coughed. She reached over for her drink, knocking over the empty wine bottle. There were flies buzzing around her glass as she took a gulp of the tepid Chardonnay. The flies had hatched from the raw meat left out by the kettle. Catherine touched her forehead. There was no sign of a fever, but what did she know? She was not a doctor. Catherine felt her pulse. It was beating dangerously fast and irregular, and there was that niggling pain in her stomach that just wouldn't go away. She hurried back to squat over the bucket. "There's nothing wrong down there, Cathy," she said. "You need more roughage in your diet. That's what you need, girl." She gulped down the last dregs of the wine and got off the bucket. She looked over to the sink. It was piled high with dirty pots. She stared at the sink taps and then at the empty wine glass. She had drunk an awful lot again. There soon would be nothing left to drink in the house, and then what? She would have to go out, all that way to the village shop and back. And looking the way she does. If only she could wash herself properly. Even if I had the money to have the water and electricity put back on, I wouldn't know how to do it, she sighed, staring at the baggy jeans and boxer shorts lying on the floor by the washing machine. It was true, Mike took care of the bills, and he hadn't been home for days. Catherine had been dating Mike since that fight she had won with him in the garden. They were inseparable at school, always waiting for each other outside their classrooms. After school, Catherine would watch Mike's skills on the school playing field whenever he had football practice or a match. He's the skinny boy in the red shirt and white shorts, she'd laugh with her girlfriends, but she would then take pride in telling the girls that he was the best player on the pitch. It was during their final school year that they both decided to apply to the same universities to study literature. The decision hadn't been so much Mike's, but he knew better than to argue against anything Catherine wanted. He met her as a feisty girl, and she never changed. So it was back in '85 on a Thursday in February that the two childhood sweethearts both received a large white envelope containing various photocopies, the latest prospectus, and a letter inviting them to attend the interview day on the 16th of March. It was on a rainy Tuesday morning on April the 11th when they received the good news that they had both been anxiously waiting for, that they had both been selected to read English literature starting that September. But as she sat there now, that was all so long ago. Catherine had spent another night in a state of restlessness, fidgeting under the table in her makeshift den. She had taken to sleeping downstairs so that if Max broke into the house, she wouldn't be caught off guard. What a beast he was, and so very cruel. Pursuing her like a young fox, sniffing her out wherever she went, stalking her at every hour. Catherine felt the ache in her stomach return, his fit and strong body, those well-toned arms and muscular legs clamped tight around her. What a magnificent and majestic beast he was. But it was all too late now. Max had deceived her, and there was nothing he could say or do to make up for his terrible betrayal. Catherine had spent the whole night wondering whether Max was outside the kitchen window, trying to build up the courage to once again break in. She was also anxious that the mouse she couldn't catch would get under her blanket. She was all tooled up and prepared to handle Max, but she couldn't hurt the mouse. It was a poor, defenceless creature, unlike the monster lurking outside. End of chapter 9, part 1.